What do you have to say about Lotus Racing's first rookie year in Formula One?
I think probably the first message is sort of job done. Getting the entry so late, coming into Formula One with only 5 months to set up a Formula One team from nothing, I think is sort of pretty unprecedented in modern Formula One. And I think for all the new teams in Formula One, you were never going to come in with such short notice and start racing and beating the established teams. It was impossible. So I think 2010 was about two things. One, it was about being the best of the new teams, because that's your direct comparison. Same engine, same gearbox, they're who you've got to go and beat. And I think we were very clear that we said we'd be the best of the new teams, even from race one, even though we had so little time. And we did that. We would finish 10th in the championship, be the most reliable, the best presented of the new teams, and I think we ticked all those boxes. We were a little disappointed with the reliability, with the gearbox and hydraulics, but that was sort of beyond our control. But apart from that, I think we ticked every box. But I think the most important thing about 2010 wasn't on track, it was off track. It was about building the team up here, because it was always going to be impossible to race the established teams in year one, but you're only a new team for 1 year. Next year we're an established Formula One team, and we've got to go and race those teams and score points. So the other important thing about 2010 was building this team up. And I think when you look at the announcements we've made in terms of engine partner in Renault, gearbox partner with Red Bull Technologies, the new wind tunnel that we're going to be developing on site, the people coming on board like Mark Smith coming as technical director, I think they're the real important things for next year and beyond. So 2010 was okay, job done, but it was a big step to come from nowhere to being the best of the new teams. To come from being a new team to racing the established teams, that's an even bigger step, and that's what we've got to do next year.
You have worked with different Formula One teams previously, and does working with Lotus Racing, is it different?
I think for me personally it is different. I think the fact that I helped start this from scratch, with Tony and the shareholders. They were brave enough to back me and the people here to set this team up. So it gives you a more of a personal feel about the team. I think the fact that we brought the Lotus name back into Formula One is something fantastic for me. I was born 10 miles down the road, and I went to school at Wyndham College just a couple of miles down the road, and I grew up when Lotus was racing in Formula One and winning races. So to bring the name, to come back to Norfolk, to set up a Formula One team and to bring the Lotus name back into Formula One is personally something that I'm very closely personally involved in, more so than in any other team. And I think the challenge is just greater. We've got three fantastic shareholders with Tony, Din and Nazar. They've supported us, they've invested in us and the team here, and I think you've got a group of people that are very much determined to repay their investment for them. We're a multinational team. I know you've met some of the race engineers, Mexican, Italian, French, Germans, and a lot of Malaysian engineers, sitting behind us in the drawing office. So, we've got a real good blend here, and we want to repay the shareholders' faith in us and deliver them a fantastic racing car.
How do you think of the performance of Roviano and Heki this year?
I think, the shareholders were brave enough to make a real statement of intent by employing two race-winning drivers, experienced drivers, not taking pay drivers. And that's, if you do that in your first year, you're certainly going to do it in years 2 and 3. I think the drivers were very brave in that, they were obviously going to step to the back of the grid. They knew that. And that's not easy for any experienced driver, but they had faith in the project, they had faith in Tony and the shareholders, faith in me and the technical team. And now it's time to repay that faith. And I think they did a great job. We were always in 10th place. Whenever there was a result to get, Heikki or Jarno got it. Jarno had less luck in the race, but especially towards the end of the season, last half dozen races, you saw the old Jarno back in qualifying, fantastically quick. Car was more to his liking. I think Heikki sort of was reborn this year, really started enjoying his motor racing again after a couple of difficult seasons at McLaren as Lewis's teammate. I think we've got a great balance, they get on well, they push each other. And next year I think we're going to be giving them a car where they can really start going racing, and then they'll start repaying our investment in them, because when we give them a car to go racing, there's two guys who can sort of make that little bit that's going to make the difference, going to out-qualify someone, going to get you into Q2, Q3, going to get you points where maybe you could have finished 11th, but you don't, you get the points. And I think next year it's time for them to repay us.
Do you see switching drivers beyond 2011 or maintaining both of them?
I think stability is always good. I think beyond 2011 we have to see. We've got long-term contracts with both of them, but also we've got Faris as a driver in the team, and we'll have to look at his development as a driver. We've got the GP2 team where we'll be looking to bring up young drivers. We've got the AirAsia driver development program. We had Nabil driving for us at the straight line testing. So, we'll have to see what happens in the future, but stability is always good within a team, as long as you've got drivers performing at the top level.
Okay. Talking about Fairuz, how do you think, how's his current relationship with the team? What is he going to do next year?
I think
his future with the team?
Yeah, we're in discussions with him about the future. He did a good job for us in the P1 sessions. Very difficult. It's very, very difficult now for third drivers in Formula One, because there's not the opportunity to go testing. The sort of reserve driver roles and test driver roles, especially if you're not doing regular, P1 sessions at Grand Prix, are very difficult. So, but he did a great job for us. He's a very professional, very likeable young driver. So we'll be sitting down with him and working with him about what he's going to do in the future.
Any new test drivers coming up?
We have to see. We're looking at combining with Team AirAsia in GP2. We're obviously looking at drivers not just to do GP2, but with a view of racing for us and being test or reserve drivers in the future. So that's something I'm sure you'll see announcements of in the future.
Okay, now that the team has secured new gearboxes and engine, where do you think the team will be placed next year on the grid?
I think our aims are very, very clear. And Tony, he's very good at setting ambitious aims, which is good. But we very clearly target the teams that finish 6th to 9th. Williams, Force India, Toro Rosso and Sauber. They're clearly where we want to be. Formula One's very close at the moment. We were probably a second off that, at best a second off that group. We're very confident of closing that up, and we want to be racing in that group. We're targeting 7th or 8th in the championship. I think that would be a fantastic step. But from race 1, we want to be getting into Q2 and sort of racing in that second half, if you like. I mean, I think you've got to be realistic. In 18 months, you're not going to build up a team that's going to go and race Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren or Mercedes for race wins. That's 3 or 4 years down, along the road. But we clearly next year want to be a regular point scoring team. So we have very, very clear aims.
What are your comments on this Team Lotus name issue with Group Lotus, that whole thing?
I think it's a great shame. I think on one level, Tony stressed to everyone that a team is about the people in the team, and whatever we're called isn't going to change what we are as a team. And we've built up that team and the fan base around the world and in Malaysia. We've built up that team, and that isn't going to change. And actually, for me as an engineer, whether you paint it green or black or pink or bright red, doesn't how fast the car goes in the first test won't be affected at all by what the team called. Having said that, I think we're all intensely proud of what we achieved this year as Lotus Racing, bringing the name of Lotus back into Formula One. That can never be taken away from us. I was born and bred in Norfolk, as I said. To me, it was a great sense of pride to bring the Lotus name back into Formula One. And I think we brought tremendous value to the brand, and I think we want to continue to do that. It is a great brand, it has great heritage, and for me, Lotus is about engineering. It's about building, engineering and racing cars. That's what Team Lotus did. It did it in Norfolk, and that's what we've done here in Norfolk, and we'll continue to build and race. Was Colin Chapman and Lotus about branding a French car as Lotus? I'm not so sure it was. I think Colin Chapman was one of the great innovators in Formula One, and when he brought sponsorship into Formula One, I think he thought he'd be receiving it, not giving it out. That's for Tony and the shareholders to work on. As I say, we feel we've got the best shareholders in Formula One. We're very proud to work for them, and we're going to repay them by working hard and designing them a quicker car. They can tell us, they can call it anything they like, and we'll still be doing that job for them. But there is a sense of pride in bringing Lotus back into Formula One.
What do you have to say about the possibility of Group Lotus sponsoring Renault? Possibly naming it Lotus Renault and coming in next year?
I think it will be very hard for the fans to understand. Personally, I struggle to see what that sort of major investment, what benefit it gives to Group Lotus for such a huge investment, when effectively they've been having that benefit for free. The politics of that aren't for me as an engineer to be involved in. As I said, we're intensely proud of what we've done this year. We're proud of where we're going to be as a team. Tony will let us know what that's been. That's cool. But I think the one thing is that isn't affecting anything we do here. And engineering-wise, it doesn't affect anything we do. I think the marketing team have got a bit of a bigger job. And one of the things you have to realise in a rebranding exercise, very simple. We can paint a car whatever colour you like in the last week in February and go and race it. But just little things like all the sea freight for the first race goes in January, and that carries all to Bahrain. That carries all the banner systems for the garage, all the furniture for the catering area. Well, all the cushions on the chairs are green and yellow. All the banners are green. If it's not green, you got to repaint them, but they go in a couple of weeks' time. So for the marketing department and logistics, there's a huge job. But how quick the car goes in February won't change 1/1,000,000th of a second.
Will it affect the passion in the team? Because when I come here, I see that they are all proud of this, what they have achieved, like you said. And if the name Lotus is taken away from them, will it affect their morale?
I don't think it will. I think there will be a sense of hurt. I think people don't understand, having put so much effort in and done such a good job, why it would be taken away. But I know all these guys here. A lot of the guys that have come here, moved up to Norfolk, brought their families up here, did so because they wanted to be part of the Lotus project. If the name was taken away, I think there'd be a sense of hurt, and then there'd be maybe a bit of sense of anger and a real desire to get some revenge. So I think one thing you could be sure of, that heads wouldn't go down, they'd lift up, and we'd make sure that we were beating everyone out on the track as soon as possible. So these are all professional guys out here that have all got great experience in motor racing, and I think it would act as a spur to achieve quicker rather than the opposite.
Okay, and if it were to go Group Lotus's way, meaning you can't use the Team Lotus as the team name, Any possibilities on other names?
I think thankfully that is the shareholders and the marketing department responsibility. I'll stick to designing the 4,000 parts of motor racing car,
So
because that's a lot easier than trying to work out a new name.
Okay.
But you know, the one thing is Tony Fernandez, he understands brand and brand value better than anyone in any business. So I think you know, we're you know, I'll leave it to him. You know, that's what he's very good at. So, but it's not something that worries anyone here.
Okay. And back to the wind tunnel, you said that the original plan was to have a wind tunnel soon. So when is that coming along? Is it this year?
No, soon is 2 years' time, 18 months to 2 years' time. You know, we're in the planning stages. The planners are very keen for us to develop the site and working with us, and that's fantastic. But you know, realistically, it's 18 months to 2 years away. But you know, if you look at the example of Red Bull, which just won their first World Championship, it took them 7 years, and they bought an existing team, you know, which was the Jaguar team, which was the Stewart team. So when I was when I went to Benetton to bring Renault back into Formula One, again that was an existing team. We started in 2001 at the back of the grid. You know, we podiums the next year. We won our first race in 2003 with Fernando in Hungary, and they won the World Championship in 2005. So even with an established team that already won the World Championship, it took 5 years to turn it around into a winning team. So you have to take that sort of length of view. So 18 months to 2 years to bring the wind tunnel on site, but we're developing everywhere. So you know, we'll be getting stronger and stronger as an organisation. And don't forget, with the resource restriction agreement in Formula One, you know, the teams that are now 600 people are going to have to come down to 300 people. So they'll be coming down to our size rather than us having to grow up to them. But you've got to have a 5-year plan. The shareholders are very realistic about that. So you know, we've made a good start, but it's very much just the first step along the road. Okay, thanks very much.
Yourself, any question?
So in terms of driver, do you have any specific target for the driver?
Not specific target, because ultimately the target depends on the performance of the car. You know, the driver can make a small difference, and you know, ultimately the drivers mustn't make mistakes. You know, they've got to get the best out of the car in qualifying. They've got to be the consistent in the race, and they've got to make no mistakes. But it's not that we say, well, you have to qualify this high or do that, because it's not just up to them, it's up to how quick the car is. So it's our job to give them a quicker car. And I think, you know, we've got two experienced top line performers. So you know, as long as they're matching each other, then you know, there isn't any more to come from the car.
Okay. One final question: has the plan of setting up a HQ in Kuala Lumpur, has that been completely scrapped?
No, I don't think it has at all. I think, you know, Tony, when he came into this project, was very keen, even initially, to move everything to KL, and I think I always felt that was going to be impossible. And I think one thing you have to say about Tony and the shareholders, they're very quick learners. And you know, they came into the business, and I think they very rapidly realised that with the amount of specialist support companies you need, and the amount of pool of experienced engineers you have to tap into, you've got to be in the centre of that, and that's in the UK. I still think we want to set something up in KL, possibly at Sepang. I think there's a lot of talent in Malaysia. You see the number of engineers that are sitting outside. But I think some production facilities, you've got facilities like CTRM, and also utilising all the skill sets in the universities. We have close links with UTM. And so I still think we'll be looking at a technology centre in KL. So the plans have rescaled, but I think that's just a function of Tony shareholders realising, learning about the business, realising the strengths of being here. But also, you know, Tony's very keen to put things back into Malaysia, you know, inspire young Malaysian engineers, not just engineers, but mechanics, you know, people in PR, marketing, and in fact this morning we were having a meeting. We're looking at running show car events next year, a lot of which are in the Asian region, and it may well make sense for us to base the show car program out of Malaysia in Sepang. So we would have a small team running that program. Hopefully to look in, Malaysian mechanics and that. So we're still very, we're a Malaysian team and we're proud of that. And hopefully in a few years' time you'll see Tony up on the podium getting the winner's trophy and the Malaysian flag being pulled up. But we're very proud of that. So undoubtedly, there will be a technology centre in KL.
Okay. Thank you.
Good.